you floated the possibility that 3i Atlas is alien technology in order to distract us from the Epstein files. My response to that is go to Amazon right now and purchase a 0.5 meter telescope, because that would allow you to see the object in the sky. I cannot really fake it. It's not something I can create with a Jewish laser. Because it's so far away, it's like 4 times the Earth-Sun separation. And the Hubble Space Telescope, the Webb Telescope, are looking at it in the context of 3i Atlas. This is the third interstellar object discovered on July 1st, 2025. And what was special about it, first of all, the brightness was so large that if you were to assume it's a solid object, it had to have a diameter of 20 kilometers. That's bigger than Manhattan Island, twice as big as the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs. And it's just extremely rare. Okay, so I calculated, well, first of all, there should have been hundreds of thousands of Oumuamua-sized objects. That was just the size of a football field, 100 meters or so. And there are many more small objects than big rocks. But more importantly, the interstellar space can deliver a rock of 20 kilometers at best once per 10,000 years. If you take all the rocky material, pack it into 20-kilometer rocks, once per 10,000 years, you can get one to cross the inner solar system at the speed of 3i Atlas. And we saw it after 1 decade of surveying the sky. So that was unusual. And then more dramatically, the trajectory of this object is exactly aligned with the plane in which the planets orbit the sun, to within 5 degrees. And, that coincidence is 1 in 500. Okay, for it to lie exactly in the plane, it means that along its path, it can come very close to several planets. In fact, it comes very close to Mars, Venus, and Jupiter. And it wouldn't be able to do that if it came at an angle. And moreover, it arrives closest to the sun when the Earth is on the opposite side of the sun. So we won't be able to observe it. And that's the best point to make a maneuver using the sun's gravity. Moreover, it came from a direction in the sky that is full of stars. It's the direction of the center of the Milky Way galaxy. And so I was a co-author of a paper that said, is 3i Atlas alien technology? And of course, if it is alien technology, you can't do the calculation of the mass in rocks in interstellar space, because this object is targeting the inner solar system. And, it will pass closest to the sun on October 29th, 2025. I got a text message the other day from someone who said that he is trading options on the volatility of the market with an expiration date of October 29th in order to make money. And I immediately thought, I don't know if there will be meaning to money if this object turns out to be technological after October 29th. If you want to take a vacation, take it before that date. Because who knows what will happen. Now, it could be a mothership that releases mini probes, that they come to Earth. The Galileo project that I'm leading is looking for unidentified anomalous phenomena, and we have now 3 observatories, and we will check if after October there is more activity. That would be interesting to check. But as of now, people, astronomers, what you will hear is the sort of the party claim that this is a comet. A comet, by the way, just like zebra is identified by its stripes, you tell it by the cometary tail. Okay, that's what distinguishes a comet. And in this case, just yesterday, there was the first analysis of the image from the Hubble Space Telescope of this object. And guess what? There is no tail. But more importantly, there is glow in front of the object instead of behind it.
It's got headlights. It's got headlights. You're not celebrating Halloween this year. That's the take-home message.
Just as an English to English translation, if I'm summarizing, there is a large rock that most scientists think is a comet that is bigger than the size of Manhattan, hurling towards space or hurling through space, potentially towards the Earth, that you believe may be alien technology, potentially a mothership that does not have any of the signs of a comet, but has headlights potentially or a glow in front of it. And it's scheduled to arrive potentially on Earth on October 29th. Is that accurate?
Not to Earth, but to get closest to the sun along its path.
But Avi, it's going to appear when we can't see it, which would be the best time for it to make a sneaky maneuver.
Yes, exactly. I mean, you can argue like my colleagues do and say, the trajectory, it's just a random trajectory that happens to be fine-tuned and so perfectly aligned with all these planets. And, it's a coincidence that it happened to come closest to the sun when we can't see it. And it's a coincidence that it passes near all these other planets. By the way, even if you take this trajectory and just arrange for a random arrival time, you get 1 in 20,000 chance of it coming as close as it does to Jupiter, Mars, and Venus. It just fine-tuned in the sense that it also comes closest to those planets. Those planets are moving around the sun, in a circle, each of them, and they get to the point where 3i Atlas is just when it arrives there. Like, how can that happen?
Maybe you're crazy. Maybe they're just going to say, Avi's crazy. But is this sort of the way we have to think? Meaning, if you're going to open up the possibility that there's extraterrestrial life, it's got 1 million or billion years of head start on us, you have to open your mind to the possibility of what if. And so every time you see something that we can't yet explain or we can't yet measure, we get to open our minds and say, what if? What are the possibilities? What's the clinical, scientific, quantifiable way to examine it rather than just dismiss it?
Yeah, or assume that it's the same as we have seen before, because that's the usual approach of scientists, of anyone. And my point is that, in fact, I suggested establishing a new scale between 0 and 10, which is now called the Loeb scale, because I suggested it a month ago, and there was actually a paper yesterday that I co-authored about it. And the idea is a 0 would be an object that definitely shows a cometary tail, okay, or looks like an asteroid, has all the characteristics that we are familiar with of a rock or an icy rock. That's 0. And 10 would be an object that is definitely technological because it maneuvers or has some artificial lights or has some unusual shape or transmits signals, something, or has, releases much more heat than you expect from the solar illumination. It has some engine that gives it additional heat. All of these signatures would raise a flag. And if it looks like it's technological, then there needs to be an organization that is international, because the aliens do not care how we split territories on this rock that we were born on. There is much more real estate out beyond Earth, and they would be completely amazed that we are worried.
They're like hippies. They don't believe in borders.
No, I mean, what we decide here on Earth is very local. We are obsessed with it. All our politics, geopolitics is all about territories, and they would think, who cares? This is a tiny rock out of billions of them out there. But so they would not distinguish us based on the nation that we belong to. So therefore, it will be a problem of humanity as a whole. And this organization needs to be international. So my recommendation is there should be an organization because, we are worried about existential threats from artificial intelligence. There is a lot of talk about it. From climate change, there is a lot of talk about it. From an asteroid impact, there is modest talk about that. But I'm saying another type of threat would be alien tech. Okay, and there should be an organization that decides what to do. Why? Because when we imagine in the context of Contact, the film or the book, if we imagine detecting a radio signal from a star that is thousands of light years away, there is no urgency. There is plenty of time because it would take them a lot of time to reach us. Even if we respond, we have time to respond. There is no immediate threat. But if you have a visitor in your backyard, you immediately need to decide what to do about it. And that depends on the intent and the capabilities of the visitor and the specific characteristics of the visitor. And each visitor deserves special attention. So my point is, this organization, when, in the next decade, the Rubin Observatory will discover an interstellar object every few months. We're entering a new phase now. In the past, in the last 8 years, we discovered only 3. Okay, so now every 3 months, there will be a new one. And we need to develop a strategy of how to deal with things that are high on this Loeb scale of risk. that are above 5, let's say. We need to develop a response to that, especially if it's close to 10. We need to decide how to deal with that. And we haven't thought about that. There is no such organization, and nobody discusses it. There is a fundamental question whether that was a result of a visit by some interstellar gardener that decided to introduce intelligence into this planet. And we just don't know because it's not documented. Humans documented history over the past 8,000 years or so. And one reason I'm seeking intelligence in interstellar space is because I don't often find it in academia.
I've been under the assumption that the process of evolution, the way I was taught as an undergraduate in graduate school, was accurate. Am I supposed to entertain the possibility that there was an interstellar visit from a being that inserted intelligence into our evolutionary DNA?
It's possible. And let me bring another possibility. We think that 66 million years ago, there was a giant rock the size of Manhattan Island that killed the non-avian dinosaurs. What if that was not a rock, but some giant thing that collided with Earth to reset the biological life on Earth? Or, there are all kinds of events if you go back hundreds of millions of years. And we just don't know. It was never documented. We don't know what happened. We know that the common ancestor of life, it's called Luca, the last universal common ancestor. Right now, it was dated by DNA to have appeared 4.2 billion years ago. That was the Earth formed around 4.5 billion years ago. And within 300 million years, life started with this common ancestor. And we don't know where it came from. It could have come from Mars because Mars cooled before the Earth. It's a smaller body. It had more surface area for its mass than the Earth, and therefore it could have cooled earlier, and life could have started on Mars. We know it had lakes, rivers, oceans of water, just like Earth. And we know that the two planets exchanged rocks. And if life started, if Luca was first on Mars and delivered to Earth with a rock, this is called panspermia. That's the delivery of life in rocks. Then what Elon Musk is trying to do right now is return to our childhood home. In fact, there were astronauts, tiny astronauts, microbes in the cores of these early rocks that were the first to make the trip from Mars to Earth. And it's possible that Luca, that started life on Earth, came from Mars. We don't know because we haven't found yet evidence for life on Mars. And when we find it, we can see if it looks just like ours.